Welcome everyone to one of my most anticipated chapters in my Tarantino reviews. This is coming way after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but it still matters because it's actually the 10th anniversary of this film this week. We're talking about Inglourious Basterds, one of the best films in this man's filmography. And once again, I am not alone. I have a very special friend with me. This is actually the first time I'm collaborating with him. This is actually the first time I'm communicating with him through Skype. Please welcome Mr. Jared Buckendahl. How are you doing?
Thank you, Ren. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is long overdue. We haven't had a conversation. I've seen you passing in the Rotten or Fresh contest and stuff like that, but definitely I'm familiar with your work. So thank you for inviting me over to talk about probably one of my favorite, actually my favorite Tarantino film.
Thank you for being on here. You're definitely one of the people who are one of the funniest people I watch
Oh,
consistently.
thank you.
And it kind of fits that you belong in this review because this is also one of Tarantino. This is actually one of Tarantino's funniest films
Oh
for
yeah.
me. How was your first experience with this film? How did it hit you that first time?
Well, I guess I'm kind of surprised that this is the 10th anniversary of this film. I didn't even think about that. But I don't think I watched this movie until probably 3 years after it came out. I didn't see it in theaters. I remember I think I watched it on TV or with a group of friends, and I was like, I didn't even know it was a Tarantino film. I was like, "What is this movie?" It's obviously like an alternate history, and I loved it. Like, I watched it again right before we got on this call, and I'm like, again, it's comedy, it's tense, it's again my favorite of his movies.
Yeah, I remember the first time I actually watched it in the theater. I went to see it with my dad because I had just really started getting into Tarantino once this film
Yeah.
came out, and my dad loved these films as well. And honestly, this is gonna sound really stupid, but I had no idea at the time. I was 2019. No, I was 16. So this is what I was about to say doesn't fit because I found that out with another film. So as you said, this is alternate history, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a much better ending for everyone involved. Because if this had happened, we'd all be better for it, I think.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that
and
that's the thing. Go ahead.
no, sorry, I was I was guffing.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that I love the way that Tarantino will take something that's grounded in history or fact and then twist it a little bit. I mean, with you had mentioned Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He did the exact same thing in that film.
Yeah, I agree, and in a much more, I guess, visceral way. Because in this one, yes, it's a Jewish person taking revenge on a lot of Nazis, and luckily Hitler is there. In Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like a direct attack on the people who are
Mhm.
going to, well, Sharon Tate's house. But if I don't know if you noticed, but my guess when it comes to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there was nobody living like under the house of Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski, was there?
I don't think so. There might have
Yeah,
been no
yeah.
one in the
Because
floorboard.
my guess was, well, if somebody had there, it'd be Sharon Tate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's go into let's dissect this film because I tweeted it yesterday. I tagged you in it. This film, to me at least, has one of the top 10 best opening scenes of all time, and we meet one of Tarantino's best characters of all time, Hans Landa, who is charming. He's kind of funny. He's quirky, but he's a freaking Nazi. So
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised when he reveals his true self midway through the scene after having a glass of milk. How did you feel about this scene the first time you watched this?
Oh man, the like you said, I'm glad you tweeted that out yesterday because this is again one of the best intros to a movie. And I remember watching it the first time, and I almost was like, "Am I halfway through the movie? Like this seems like it's taking forever. It's a drawn out scene, but there's so much because he shows up and it's a little bit tense. Then it's charming because he's like, "Hey, let's have some milk. Let's talk in English instead of French," and they're just going back and forth. But then as you get further into the conversation, you can see the dread building in, I don't know what the other dude's name is, but you can see the dread just building in him. You can see that there's people under the floorboards, and it is, again, like you said, it is just, there's so many emotions in that opening. What is it, 10 minutes? A little
I
over
guess
10
it's
minutes,
more
I
like
think.
20. I
Holy
guess it's
crap,
closer
are
to
you
20.
kidding? Oh my god,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
no
not sure,
wonder
but
it
I
seems like it
guess that.
takes forever.
Yeah, and you're right. That scene, I love the moment where he's very cordial about it. He has extended his French, so he's asking if he can switch to English since he's at the man's house. Monsieur Lapadite is his name. I just love the way he says it. And this language exchanging comes back in one of my favorite moments in the film near the end. And then we meet our heroes, our bastards, and we meet the Bear Jew. How was this introduction for you, meeting Lieutenant Aldo Rain and every one of his bastards?
Oh my gosh. I love the way, because doesn't it start with Hitler, and then it's almost like a recollection because that one guy shows up, and then he's kind
Yes.
of explaining what's going on. And it is just a band of ridiculous characters. Like, I am loving what Brad Pitt is doing here, but then again, like you said, is it Eli Roth as the Bear Jew is just has that like Bronx, New York accent, is so good.
Yeah, I love the accent. I don't know if I'm in a place to be an actual judge of it, but I always felt like the accent was purposefully exaggerated
Oh
to
yeah.
just come across over the top. And it's one of the best aspects of the character for me. One thing that I love is him instructing the bastards once they're setting in for the mission, and he says, "Every one of my bastards owes me 100 nasty scalps. Are you gonna get me my scalps?" "Yes, sir." It's fantastic. I think it's one of Pitt's best performances till this day.
Oh yeah, it's so funny because he's almost like a character actor in this role, but it works so good because again, his accent is a little bit exaggerated, but it's funny, but he means business at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And there's the Hitler in this film as well, as the guy is telling him the story. You can just see that Hitler is afraid of preserving his image and how he commands his army. Like, every soldier under him has to be as virtuous as him, I guess, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. That'd be
Hmm.
my guess. And you just see Hitler in every scene he's in this film. He's completely sweating. He's completely nervous, and I love how they just present him as like this man baby throughout the film that doesn't know
Oh
how to act
yeah.
when the unpredictable comes.
Oh yeah, and that's again, that's Tarantino, poking fun at it. Obviously, this is some serious material because of the actual historical events, but he's definitely putting a parody on the Hitler character, and I love it because again, like you said, that little tiny mustache, just sweating and just angry the whole time about how these bastards are taking his or each of his like army or men out every single time that they're doing their thing.
Yeah. And how do you feel about what happens next? Because then we get what at first doesn't feel like it's going to be a big part of the story because it has nothing to do with the bastards. It has nothing directly to do with Hitler, let's say. But it's the meeting of Shoshana and Frederick Zoller, who I didn't notice until last night that it was played by Daniel Bruhl, who is one of my favorite actors.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
the scene where they meet and he starts falling in love. Did this scene hit you right? And by that I mean, did you kind of find him charming, as Tarantino clearly wanted people to feel towards him?
I mean, I kind of see him as charming, but also a little pushy. I feel like he kind of was going like she clearly was not having it at all,
Yeah.
which I love because he is just oblivious to how she is actually feeling through almost every scene that they're together. But yeah, I totally agree. Like, I love him because I was like, oh crap, that's Baron Zemo from Winter Soldier, and but he turns in such a great performance here.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite actors, and I love that he kind of almost forgets, or it feels like he forgets that he is a Nazi
Yeah.
constantly throughout the film until the very end, which I feel he reveals his true self on the projection room.
Mhm.
And So eventually he has a film premiering and he wants to use her cinema because he's a fan of movies like us, but we're not Nazis, don't worry people.
Nope.
And and eventually Hans Landa comes into play, and that entire scene, I'm not remembering the name of the actress who plays Shoshana, so I apologize in advance, but her performance in this scene, acting against Christoph Waltz, this is one of my favorite scenes. It's one of the most tension-filled scenes in this film. There is one other one, and we'll get to it, but this one,
Yep.
with the strudel and the cream, just everything about this scene I love.
Oh yeah, no, again, this every scene in this movie is crafted so well, and right like that music, the score kicks in, and then it zooms up to reveal Christoph Waltz, and you can just see the dread and terror in her eyes because has it been 2 years since the
Uh,
initial meeting?
yeah, I think it's 2 or 3.
Okay.
It's 3 because at first it's 1941 and then it's 1944.
Okay. So that, I mean, obviously 3-year span, you could potentially still remember someone, but the second when he orders, I think he orders an espresso for himself and then orders her a milk, I was like,
Milk.
"Oh crap, he knows who this person is." And I thought that that was a little hint, but obviously he doesn't know. And then the exchange of eating the streusel and the cream and just hold on, it is like they're walking on eggshells the whole conversation.
Yeah, I love that scene. I love that even before she sees him, you already see his body behind her over her shoulder,
Oh
and
yeah.
then you hear Zoller presenting Hans Landa, and she's like taking this very deep breath. Honestly, it's a fantastic. I don't know how I would feel in that moment. I would break down completely right away, and
Oh,
like her, who just breaks down in
yeah.
the end.
That's the thing, she holds it together. Obviously, it's a performance in a movie and whatnot, but, like, in that role, obviously, like, your body temperature would rise, you'd be freaking out the whole time, but she seems very composed in the moment, and, oh my gosh, yeah, this whole movie is that tension, that dread, that fear of figuring out what exactly is going on.
Yeah, I agree. And so eventually, a lot of stuff happened. They prepare for the film premiere, and in the meanwhile, the bastards are onto it. And before you go into the bastards more, I want to go into this little detail that we forgot at the beginning. As we're being presented to the bastards, there's this one guy whose name of the character I forget his second name, but he's Hugo something, and he's played by T Schweiger. I think that's the way you say his name.
Yeah, it's
And his
Hugo Stiglitz or
Stiglitz,
something.
that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And he's basically this guy who very sadistically murders Nazis every time he gets the chance. And this guy is sleeping and he puts a pillow over his head and
Yep,
just stab.
and
It's
just
one
shoves
of
his hand in the other dude's mouth.
exactly. I so last night as I was watching this film, I had forgotten about kind of what this character did, but as the scene was occurring, it was coming back to me. But when he stuffs his hand down the dude's throat, I was like, "What's he doing?" And then I noticed the hand was disappearing more and more.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's gonna do, but I was really afraid. This character is involved in And so eventually we find out about Shoshana's plan and her husband Marcel, that they're going to burn the 35, is it? Yeah, it's 35.
35
35 millimeter rolls of
nitrate.
film.
Yep.
Yeah, behind the screen. And these little bits of the film are, by the way, narrated by Samuel L. Jackson, which I just noticed yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, same
Yeah.
here.
And so everyone is at play. The bastards don't know about this plan. Shoshana doesn't know about the bastards. So there's like a three-way fight happening here.
Hmm.
Um, and eventually Zoller goes up to Shoshana, which is, again, a scene that kind of feel for him, but eventually reveals true self by forcing his way in. How did you take the scene in?
The one up in the projector room.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Again, I it's it falls into the whole tension and stuff again because I think, like you said, he's very smitten by her, but then he notices kind of what the true plan is, what's going to happen, and his true colors. The fact that he used to be a Nazi, he's kind of a movie actor now, but his true colors, his true character comes out, and they exchange those shots and stuff, and obviously she gets what she wants at the end, but it's kind of a bittersweet thing because she has to give her life in the process.
Exactly. And I actually feel sorry that her husband has no idea that she's dead. Husband,
Yeah.
boyfriend, whatever.
Yeah, see, that's
But
the thing. I guess I didn't even catch that that was her boyfriend or husband or whatever. I thought it was just a dude that worked at the movie theater with her.
I mean, I got that he was her boyfriend because she calls him my darling, and eventually
Okay.
they kiss each other. So that's how
Okay,
I
that
got it.
makes sense.
But I think it's purposefully not very well explained.
Yeah.
Um, but as this is happening, two of the bastards, one of them being the bear Jew, are preparing to lock the doors and shoot up the place, including as they row him down with machine guns, and then Hans Landa, as he strangles Diane Kruger's character, which, by the way, those are Tarantino's hands, if I'm not mistaken, in the
Yep.
close-ups. And he sends people to capture Aldo Rain and whoever the character played by B.J. Novak is named. Uh, and eventually find out that he wants out. He just wants to be free because he doesn't believe that the Nazis will end up winning the war. And
Yep.
so he arranges a negotiation, and that's a bingo. Um, and he rearranges to be sent to America, safety, and that's just what he wants. And so eventually, the commanding officer of Eldorain, he agrees. And as this is happening, we start the massacre. Take us through the massacre at the cinema, Jared.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. It starts off. Doesn't it start off with the two? God, correct me if I'm wrong. The two bastards with the towels over their arm, and they go up to essentially those
Yes.
doors, right? But
Yeah.
and I love the. It was basically like brass knuckles, but it had a bullet in it, right?
Yeah, I think so. It was this kind of. It's like one of those weapons that, like, if you have a sleeve
Yes.
here, it comes
Yeah.
up from, but you have kind of a mechanism to hold it, not just the trigger, and so it works both ways.
Yeah, and I guess going into almost like the kind of like technology that they used here too. It's a little bit. It's not exactly what is historically accurate of that time and whatnot. But yeah, they go and do that, and then while they're doing that, there's the whole 35 millimeter. That's I think that it doesn't it start igniting right when they're busting in the doors up top too.
I believe so. I mean, I watched it last night, but I believe that's
Yeah,
how
see,
it
that's the thing
that's
is, like,
how
I
that
watched
happens.
it yesterday too, and I'm
Yeah.
still kind of, forgetting a few parts of it, but it's just so funny because if all of these characters would have actually somehow realized that they're doing this together, it would have worked so much better,
Yeah.
but like you said, like, 2 or 3 different groups of people are doing completely different things, but all have the same objective in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, apart from the Nazis who want
Mm,
actually to live, uh,
they just wanted to
but
watch a nice
I
movie.
love. Yeah, exactly. They wanted to like watch a self-masturbating movie for the Reich. I
Yes.
guess that's how you'd call it.
Yep.
But I love the moment when Shoshana comes on the screen and she says, "This is the Jew who's going to be going to kill all the Nazis," and the Nazis all start to boo and throwing stuff at the screen. And I'm like, "This is what Cannes feels like. It's filled with Nazis." Uh,
Oh man, that's funny.
so I'm probably not gonna get invited to that festival ever after that. Uh, and okay, so eventually the Nazis die, Hitler dies, woohoo!
Hmm.
And the bastards get away safely, I believe, unless I'm forgetting something. But we have Brad Pitt and his fellow bastard taking Hans Landa, and I think the other guy's name, the other Nazi's name was Herman, the one who was with Hans Landa at the end.
Ape, yeah.
and and they're meeting at the in the forest. They're going to be taken away to America safely. And Brad Pitt asks for his knife. And as soon as he asks for his knife, I'm like, oh, that's gonna happen. Okay. And he kills the other guy just randomly, and he executes his masterpiece um, by carving a swastika on Hans Landa, which is a gruesome scene, by the way. And everything we've seen so far in this film, that's the scene that kind of makes me shiver the most.
Hmm. And like you said, like that kind of almost brings out, because there all the other stuff is fairly gruesome. I mean, the shootouts and stuff you're seeing. I love Tarantino's a blood splatter effects and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's very kind of gritty. But I agree where he's actually carving it in. It's kind of like, ooh,
Yeah, because you see it like close up, and the practical effects are so good that really does feel and
yeah.
look like his actual forehead coming
Yeah,
in.
and the thing is, like, earlier on in the film, you see the opposite of what they do, because instead of it showing down, it's showing up, and you see just the knife coming out.
Yeah, exactly. And you only see the aftermath.
Yep.
So I like that purposefully they didn't show like how it actually. I mean, you know how it actually
Yeah,
happened,
you
but they
know.
don't
Yeah, yeah.
take. This film is so well edited. I don't remember if it won Best Editing at the Academy Awards. I don't think it did. But if you do, please correct me if.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to almost look it up to see if it. I'm assuming it nominated, right? I don't know if it won. Well, the thing is, like, this whole film, obviously, it's what, over 2 hours. I'm trying to think what the runtime is.
two
It's
hours
like what,
30.
2:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tarantino's films are long, but the thing is, it kind of flies by. I mean, you're setting in all of these scenes. Like the opening scene is literally 20 minutes, but each scene is very drawn out. It goes well and all that stuff.
Yeah, totally. By the way, I just checked. It was nominated, but it lost Best Editing to The Hurt Locker.
Okay.
But at least it
Never.
was nominated.
Yeah, at least it got that going for it.
Now let's go into some final thoughts, Jared. Whatever you want, unless you have some negatives about the film.
Um, I don't know if I have any like major negatives. It'd just be kind of nitpicky things that really don't affect the story. Like you said, that the dude that's working with her at the movie theater, I guess I didn't pick up that they had much of a, I mean, I thought they were co-workers, that's about it. But that doesn't affect any part of the story. Um, I guess one thing that it's not a nitpick, but it's kind of almost surprising is Mike Myers is in this movie. and
Yeah,
and he has a little bit of comedy because he's smirking and whatnot, and you can tell that it's him if you know he's in this movie. But that was just, I guess, an odd choice to have in this film.
yeah, I agree. Especially it's such a, I don't want to say too serious of a scene because there's so many others, but there's
Yeah,
just such a normal role, I guess you'd expect for Mike Myers. He's presenting Michael Fassbender. That's the first scene Michael Fassbender comes in,
yeah,
and he's giving him his mission. And there's freaking Winston Churchill.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. It's again, it's not exactly a negative that Mike Myers is playing a normal role. It's
No.
just so off. It's so unorthodox, let's say, that it really comes. Oh, that's Mike Myers.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's just, yeah, like you said, unorthodox, surprising. I mean, it. He does a fantastic job. I mean, he's there for 5 minutes. He does his job and he's out. But Yeah, I don't think that there's any blistering negatives of the film. Like again, I think that this is probably my favorite Tarantino film. I should really go back and rewatch them all, but this is up there for me. What about you? Do you have any like like negatives that really stand out?
Not really, apart from and that one element, let's say, of Marcel and Shoshana, their relationship. I mean, but I didn't really care to know either way. And as
Yeah.
you said, it doesn't affect the story. I won't say this is my favorites, but my top three Tarantino films, I interchange them all the time, and I
Mhm.
give them all the same grade because I just think they're right there. They're the cream of the top. They're all three are on my top 25 of all time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There,
What
for me,
what
at
what
least,
are
there's
your
really
top 3?
nothing. So it's Pulp Fiction,
Okay.
Reservoir Dogs, and Inglorious Bastards.
Gotcha. Yeah. I actually just watched Reservoir Dogs about a week ago and I was like, "Man, that's so good."
Yeah. And now let's go into finally grades. However you want to grade this film, Jared, go ahead.
No, no. I'm going to let you go first. Let me think on
Okay.
it a little bit.
I give them all the same grade, and I already reviewed Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, so you guys know what I'm going to give this. I'm giving Inglorious Bastards an A plus.
Oh, an A plus. Okay, so you're doing the letter grades. I'm gonna give this film again, since this is my favorite Tarantino film, and I think I gave Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think I gave that like a 4 point something. I'm gonna give this film a 4.8 out of 5 Nazi scalps.
Now I need to find a PNG for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to be a lot of fun to hope that YouTube doesn't demonetize me for
Yeah,
not a lot
just
of
blur it
scalp.
out.
Exactly. Well, those are our thoughts on Inglorious Bastards. Thank you so much, Jared, for joining me. This was a lot of fun. I hope we can do this again some other time, either on my channel or on yours. And so let the people know where they can find you anywhere online.
Absolutely. No, Ren, this was awesome. Thank you so much. It worked out great. Our time schedule lined up, but definitely I'm going to be reaching out for some future content I got on my channel, so be ready for that. But anyways, for all of you viewers, you can find me, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think it's all at Jared Buckendahl. I'm sure that Ren's going to list it down in the comments below. But yeah, I do movie reviews, trailer reactions, kind of some breakdown stuff. I just started a brand new podcast, and then I also try to weave comedy into all of my reviews because that's what I'm trying to do to stand out. So if you like a little bit of comedy mixed in with your reviews, check me out.
Thank you so much once again. And yes, all of Jared's links will be in the description. And he's really funny. So go watch his stuff, guys. Thank you so much once again, Jared. Thank you so much once again for everyone watching. I'll see you in my next review, which is either going to be Django or Death Proof. And so until then, love each other and love the movies.